our website at salisburync.gov/agendas. City Council meetings are broadcast on Access 16, our local government TV station, which is available on Spectrum, Channel 16, and Hotwire, Channel 394. Meeting airtimes are posted on the station's website, access16.tv. You can also watch current and past city meetings on demand from the city's website, salisburync.gov/videos. We're now at item number 4, adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
You've been reading that, Mayor. Did you want to read them again? Because there's a pretty big dollar item in there.
Well, actually, I'll read the consent agenda. I sort of did it.
Oh, adopt the agenda.
Yeah, so we'll just, if you can, someone motion.
So moved.
So we have a motion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So number 5 is Mayor to proclaim the following. Earth Day, April 22nd, 2020, and this is celebration of the 50th Earth Day. So I'll read it into the record. Whereas April 22nd, 2020 will be the 50th annual celebration of Earth Day. And whereas the first Earth Day was celebrated April 22nd, 1970, with the goal of inspiring environmental awareness and encouraging the conservation, protection, and appreciation of our nation's natural resources. And whereas it is the responsibility of each of us to safeguard the environment by recognizing that all human life depends upon the earth and upon one another for our mutual existence, well-being, and development. And whereas the steps we can take to protect and preserve our natural environment through education, partnerships, and positive actions are encouraged in our community. And whereas Earth Day will reach beyond existing environmental constituencies to involve the broadest possible cross-section of society, including business, media, religious, political, youth, academic, and cultural leaders. And whereas the City of Salisbury proudly recognizes all who participate in Earth Day for their dedication in taking a proactive role in shaping the future of our environment and in protecting the community's precious natural resources. Now, therefore, I, Karen K. Alexander, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2020 as Earth Day in Salisbury and encourage all of our citizens to be mindful of local, state, and national laws which protect our environment and to join in efforts to preserve the beauty and wonder of the lands, skies, and waters of the earth in all its diversity. This the 21st day of April 2020. And then we also have the proclamation for Better Hearing and Speech Month. Whereas hearing loss is one of the nation's leading handicapping disabilities, affecting an estimated 48.9 million Americans, and whereas hearing impairment can adversely affect our individual's ability to function effectively on the job, in school, or in social situations. And whereas hearing impairment strike persons of all ages in all economic situations, and whereas many hearing impairments could be avoided by following simple hearing conservation measures, and whereas following such hearing conservation measures is in the best interest of health, safety, and welfare of the general public, and whereas speech impairments affect more than 4 million Americans. Now, therefore, I, Karen K. Alexander, Mayor of the City of Salisbury, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2020 as Better Hearing and Speech Month in Salisbury and commend its observance to all of our citizens this the 21st day of April 2020. So we will move on now to item 6, council to consider the consent agenda, and I will read the items on that consent agenda. A, adopt minutes of the regular meeting April 7th, 2020. Extend the approval of CD-01-2018 Aaron Field of Salisbury, which is expiring due to non-development within the specified 2 years as required by the Land Development Ordinance. And C, authorize the city manager to execute a contract renewal with Atlantic Coast Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $400,000 for construction related to the 4th phase of the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. The funds for this project have been approved and are included in the FY 2019-2020 budget. So do I hear a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
Move.
We have a motion. All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to number 7, council to receive public comment. Public comment will begin following adoption of the consent agenda. For electronic meetings, speakers must sign up before 5 p.m. Speakers unable to sign up prior to 5 p.m. can submit comments by email to Tiffany Crook at salisburync.gov, and they will be added to the record. And Kelly, if you want to go ahead and read into the record any comments that you've received.
Yes. This is from Clyde, and it says, as we all know, most people do not recycle. The ones that do are confused about what can and cannot be recycled. Yet we are still charged, use it or not, on water bills. Please look for other options. Do not commit today for 3 more years and over $1 million. Rather, include it in regular garbage and let those who recycle do their own at no cost to the city. And we are not paying the company to lose money from operating at a loss in today's market, where recycling is flat and getting worse. I would like to give each of you a test of what you know about recycling. You would all fail. I had planned to do that in person, but that will have to wait. Thank you, Clyde.
Okay, thank you. And any others? Okay.
Kelly, what is this? The person who gave the public comment, what's that person's last name?
Clyde. He
Clyde.
doesn't have a last name.
Oh, sorry.
Clyde.
Okay.
Just Clyde.
Okay.
All right. And then moving on to 8, council to consider awarding the curbside recycling bid to Republic Service for a 3-year period beginning July 1st, 2020 at an estimated annual cost of $574,128. We're going to have a presenter, which is Public Works Director Craig Powers, to give us the background information that council had discussed and also the reasoning behind making this recommendation to council. So, Craig?
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I'm going to try this screen share. It worked earlier today, so I hope it works. It says the host disabled participant screen sharing, Kelly.
Try one more time. I just changed it.
There it goes. Is that working?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we received, we had 3 bids for the recycling contract. And just to start off, the services are going to remain the same. This is just a new contract. Our old vendor opted out of renewing the contract moving forward, so we had to put this out for bid. The low bid that we received was from Republic Services for $4.43 per month per household. Just to kind of put that in a little bit of context, this is a 23% increase from last year and a 60% increase from our bid, which was 3 years ago, which is the last time we put this out for bid. This kind of gives you a little bit of what we looked at when we were deciding on why we selected this contract. We put it out for bid for 3 ways. One was for us, the city, to provide the recycling cans and just to go with a 1-year contract. We like that option because that could it could allow us some flexibility moving forward, but we didn't know what kind of price we were going to get. We got no bid from one vendor and some higher prices from Republic, and then $485 from Waste Management. Waste Management, by the way, is our current vendor, so that's not surprising. They bid pretty low starting off because they already have the bin in place. Another option was a 3-year contract in which the vendor would provide the trash cans or the recycling cans. And option 3 was the city to provide a recycling can over a 3-year contract. We felt like 3 years was enough to allow the contractor time to possibly recoup their costs by providing the cans and kind of give them some flexibility, because there's a lot that goes into adding a contract like this. They've got to learn our routes. They've got to hire staff. They've got to buy a truck. So we wanted to give them a 3-year contract option. To go down here, this is what we did put out requests to see what it would cost to purchase recycling bins. We had a low bid of $467,830 and a high bid of $545,270. The reason why I put the high bid in there is because that's the person we're actually already buying the cans from. They've got a little bit higher, better product, so I wanted to put that in there because that might have been who we actually did select. But if you interpolate that out, take out the number of collection points we'd have to buy for, and price it over 3 years, we would need to add $1.20 and $1.40 to whatever bid price we would have got from our contractor and us providing. So due to that, we selected the Republic Services contract at $4.43. We just felt like that was the most economical out of the options that we had before. To give a little background, Republic Services is a nationwide contractor. They seem to be providing services more to the west of us. I've looked up several of their contracts close by. City of Hickory, Davie County, City of Gastonia are some of the larger ones close by to us. The contract does require that materials thrown into the recycling bin are in fact recycled. There was some concerns about that from other municipalities. They think maybe a TV camera actually followed a recycling truck going to the landfill. We wanted to put some teeth into it so it does actually, so our citizens do know that if they are recycling, it would actually go and be recycled. The contract will start July 1st. One of the big issues we'll have is switching out the cans, the old can to a new can. And so we'll be working with our communications team and with Waste Management Republic, trying to make that as seamless as possible. And so our recommendation after going through all our options was to award a 3-year contract to Republic Services in an amount of $4.43 per picture. If you got any questions, you can let me know.
So, Greg, in terms of the amount that will be added to each customer's bill now with this new contract, that's approximately 20% over what they were being charged prior to this.
Mr. Bailey might want to answer this.
Thank you, Craig. Mayor, that is, and we'll get into some discussions about that as we get into the budget, but the recycling amount is going up 94 cents a month per household. That's how much this contract equates to. In looking at some of the other costs that we have we have some other increases, and that's something that I'll bring up at our preliminary budget meeting, just to talk about some of the challenges that we have facing. The recycling alone part is a 90% increase.
Thank you.
How much is it before the 94 cents?
453 to 547.
That's per month?
Per month, yes, sir. And the citizen who had written in earlier had talked about only charging people that use it. Remind council, we looked at that after our budget retreat, but staff determined, like on my little cul-de-sac, I was the only one that recycled on that street, and I doubt it would be, but if I was the only one, they'd still have to drive the same number of miles, and the collection amount, you're only picking up the people who paid for recycling tonnage would be the same. So you would actually just be charging the people more who recycle because they're the only ones participating. No reduction in cost for the city, and you would be punishing people who are doing the right thing by trying to recycle, and the numbers just didn't work. And then Shannon and the finance people were worried about keeping track of which customers were paying for recycling and which weren't. So I don't know of a community that does it the way that the citizen mentioned. I understand that, what they're getting at, but the fact is it just simply doesn't work. The numbers don't work, not a way we can. And unfortunately, it costs more to recycle than it does to landfill.
Any other questions?
We had conversation in January about kind of what you just said, Lane, the opt-in, the opt-out programs. Obviously, I guess, Craig, our in-house collection, we kind of ruled that out. And then we talked about doing a collection center. Did we explore any of that kind of stuff?
And I apologize. I thought the input that we got and we on the collection center was that we have a large number of citizens who wouldn't be able to participate if we went to the collection center versus the curbside deal. Now, I think we would be looking probably at less cost if we did that. Citing a location, there may be some issues there. We may have space to do that, but that could be a challenge as well. But I think the concern council had was that we would probably eliminate people who couldn't get recyclable materials through the center. So.
And Mr. Kelly, that's what I remember as well.
Yeah, I do remember that as well, because of people riding bus. They may not have a car. They may be too elderly to, move all of this recycled material into their car if they had one and get it to a recycling place. So I think that's why that we decided to abandon that one.
Yeah, so in effect, I thought that we had taken the recycling collection center off the table.
Well, the original, if you all recall, the original conversation, we had it was like a 10 options. Recall, we had a ton of options.
Yeah.
And we kind of did whittle them down to those few options there. I guess my only other question is, when we talk about doing a 3-year contract, we had a long-standing contract previously, right?
And this is a new, the last one is a new. We had Waste Pro, then we had Waste Management.
Like I was saying, the last one changed, sound like because they chose not to renew it. In this situation, we have, is it a situation where they have it for 3 years, or do they have the option to renew it the next 3 years?
This would be a 3-year contract. Challenge that we got into with the last agreement was our current provider basically is a force majeure situation because the market just bottomed out completely, and it was they couldn't perform the contract based upon rates that they had quoted. And this isn't something that was unique to Salisbury. It was happening all around country. It's the same deal. I hope that can't imagine the market getting more challenging in recycling, but that was what happened with the current provider.
That's why I was kind of asking is that same thing going to happen to us again, I guess? We won't know.
I saw on the news today where petroleum had a negative value, that the people who make they will pay you to take it off their hands. I don't think anybody would have ever expected that. I didn't understand when I heard negative value. What does that mean? I don't think that we will get into a situation with that again with recycling, because I think the numbers are so bad in terms of the market. But I don't think I can't sit here and guarantee you that something may come up that we're not anticipating.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a few. Did we look at I know that one of the options that we had looked at was buying the cans. I think the slide showed that they cost about $500,000. And there was only I recall the slide, about a 40-cent differential in cost, which would imply that the cans, they have a life of what, 10 years, 15 years?
Depends on the quality of the can that is purchased, to be honest.
What about the ones that you showed us up there when you showed the cans would cost about $500,000 on that slide?
So we will want to get a sample of their can and make sure it meets our spec. We do have a spec with the amount of thickness of the plastic that we want. But it'd be their can, so if it does fail, if we need a replacement, the contractor would be on the hook to replace it.
I guess where I'm going is one of the options out of those 10 or 12 we looked at was we buy the cans and use a local vendor, recycle the money, which case the can would be an upfront cost we would incur, but the ongoing cost would be lower. Did we explore that any further?
Mr. Post, let me help with that. We did. We reached out to a local business owner, an in-county vendor, and I think he and his family looked hard at it. They did not submit a bid, and we specifically had talked about we would provide the container option, and they didn't do that. I don't know if Craig would like to add anything to that.
They came to our pre-bid meeting, a local vendor, and so we had some other folks who explored it, came to ask questions, but they just opted not to submit a bid. Came time for open.
My second question is, does the contract include a cancellation option?
I'm not totally sure what all is in the contract. The contract is pretty thick, but I can look into that, but I would think it's a 3-year contract, and the only thing they could do is basically what the last contract is, try to claim something being upset, or we could have a process that would move to if they were not delivering the services that were described in the.
Well, I guess my question is there any situation where we can cancel the contract? For example, if China decides, we'll take it again, or some other country shows up and says, we'll take your recycling, Brazil shows up and says, yeah, we want to be the world's recycling destination, and prices go back down 60%. Is there any option that's a force majeure also, although people don't usually see that as a force majeure, but that's a force majeure for our taxpayer. So my question is there any option for us to cancel the contract?
What I've is fewer items go into the recycling container. Citizens start to take cans, bottles, whatever, to other locations, and they realize they can make a little extra. So not as much product goes into containers.
So there's no option for us to get out of it if the world changes in our favor.
I would defer to the city attorney on that. I think if you see the change, then you will see citizens start to take that to other places to make a little money.
What about our excuse me, are there any cities that have decided that this is ironic for me to ask this question during Earth Month, but after Proclamation for Earth Month, but are there any cities that have opted out of recycling altogether because their landfills have so much space and there's so much recycled material that we don't know, that the whole world doesn't even know what to do with? It's almost like a second land dump, but it's called recycling dumps. And I've heard that some cities are just opting out altogether. Do we know of any?
I can't quote cities offhand, but I remember when this started to happen a year ago, a few communities in North Carolina got out of recycling. And I think might have been a few around the country doing it as well. Given the budget struggles that are in communities, I would not be surprised if you didn't see more of that in this coming fiscal year.
That's one of the, I'm wondering whether we should consider that. I mean, we're going to have, quote Councilman Miller, the most difficult budget year we've ever had. And this recycling thing is just a quagmire everywhere. We don't even know if it's really going into a recycling location and what's being recycled and all that. I mean, it's gotten to be a messy playing field.
I do have a question, and I'm not sure what protocol is in an electronic meeting and when to jump in. Is this a good time, or should I wait?
Go for it.
Well, David, are you finished with your comment?
Well, I'm wondering, I guess my comment was whether we should consider what other communities have done and just not recycle, save the taxpayer that $6. And for a year or two, there's nothing that says we can't come back and have a contract later. This is going to cost, whatever it is, a $1.5 million, almost a $1.8 million contract over the next 3 years. I'm wondering if we should maybe consider for the next 1 year, while we get through the change in where the world is just not recycle.
I think that it's a very good question. Do you have anything else you'd want to add before we go to the next council person?
No, I just wonder whether we should consider that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, can I get Craig Powers? Can you help me? What is our current cost per month per house?
$365, something like that. Had that number down.
The number I got from Shannon is $453 per month.
That's the number I was thinking you mentioned a minute ago. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the cost that's quoted in this bid per month per house?
Going to $547.
That's the number that a current provider is going to go to, or the one that the bid goes to?
The bid goes to
547.
Yeah.
94%
increase.
All right, Craig, can you go back to your presentation then?
It's the bid is for $443 per month per household. What finance does is do a full cost analysis to recoup the cost of our staff that also works on the recycling end of the contract.
So there's an extra dollar per house that's added on,
yes,
in addition to what the bid is. Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Okay.
How much are we paying? How much is the taxpayer paying?
Apparently, they're paying the first $4.50 some odd cents. We're paying the dollar per house difference. Would that be right, Craig?
I don't have the numbers that Shannon gave.
Or we put it full cost recovery of $5.47 to each house.
That would be correct.
So they're paying for the whole thing then, David.
the citizens.
Yes, the household, each household is paying for the full freight.
Yes.
So your point is that it's not costing the city anything, right?
Yeah, and so the question really is, do the citizens want it? We heard from one person not to do it.
I will say this: Craig Powers can give us the actual percentages, but at one presentation during the last year, I think that the percentage was 56 or 57% of our citizens recycle. So, Craig, do you have exactly?
I don't have that number exactly right now. We haven't got a count in a while, but that sounds about right. We have one of the higher percentages of the municipalities around.
So my question would be this: how long do we have before we have to sign this contract?
Right.
And could that be a budget question that we do some sort of city survey, that we put it to the people and say, I mean, these are our challenges over the next year because of the COVID-19. This is, if we went forward, this is how much it'll cost. It will be higher than you've been paying, but how committed are you as a citizenry? I mean, I know that I am passionate about recycling. I know a lot of people are. I know that, for instance, because CABA is here, that their students, professors, whatever, are really committed. But I think that if we opened it up and let the community, and it could be a choice, we could. Lane, how would we do that to get?
I was getting ready.
And can I jump in real quick, Lane, before you respond to that? I just want to add to that, Karen. I think that if we're going to open it up to the community in this way, that we also need an educational piece. I think we need information about what is the impact of not recycling and what that will mean for our community, in this period going forward. How does that change our community for the worse or for the better? Because like yourself, I'm very passionate about recycling. I'm also very, concerned about protecting our environment. So if we can get that information as well, maybe get it up on our website so that people can make an informed decision.
That's very important. I guess what I would be afraid of is that if we do it, that we would have a lot of people upset. And we have a school here that has a program that is nationally and internationally known. These students have visited me, and they are passionate about what we do as a city in terms of even in every array of our operation. So, I just think that we need to be careful because if you ever not have it, it's going to be more difficult, I think, to ever get it back. So that's, although
I don't want to leave the impression that I'm against the environment at all. But if we've got roughly half the people and half the citizens using it, and every citizen paying for it, and landfills aren't a total waste. I mean, if you go to New York City, Brooklyn is added a square mile. Wall Street's built on landfill, and so it's not that landfills are unenvironmental. I think that we need to look at that. I mean, the point is, if we're recycling, another question is the stuff that we're recycling actually being recycled, or is it just being put into another landfill? I think there's some questions that we don't know the answers to.
Yeah, I think it's very valid to bring this up and to have a robust discussion, and also have the community weigh in. Lane, how would be the best way to do that, given the budget schedule that we're up against?
I think a survey is going to be a challenge to get back from the public. What I would say is that we have 5 elected officials that are very involved in different parts of the community, and you will have your own focus group from all those different parts of the community tell you what you think of this. We need to give the vendor, if you choose to select them, time to order that many containers. That's not something that you can go down to Lowe's Home Improvement and pull those off the shelf. There's an order time, there's lead time, and that's why we're getting this to you. I would suggest that maybe if you wanted to defer this, we just defer it a week till we get to the preliminary budget discussions next week. You can look at the other things that we'll be talking about in terms of some of the challenges, and that may affect your decision.
Well, but going back to my comment earlier, does this really cost us? I mean, it's not a cost to us; it's a cost to the citizens.
That's correct. But
and let me finish the thought. If you take it off, I mean, a penny on the tax rate is how much annually on an average home?
280,000.
Yeah, but divide that by the number of households.
Yeah, but
Out of 280,000 is about
There's 14,000 households.
A penny on the tax rate generates $280,000, plus or minus a few dollars. Average, what that is, average household, I don't know that off the top of my head right now. But I will say, and Mr. Miller laughs at me when I talk about the toughest budget ever. Before coming to Salisbury, the toughest budget I ever had was when I was in Lenore, began there, and we eliminated curbside recycling, and we went to a collection center a couple years later, but I'd say that was one of the biggest regrets that I had during my 11-year time in Lenore. I do think that we have a very large segment of the community. I'm part of that segment that cares deeply about the environment and deeply about recycling. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, but I also understand that there's a cost to it, and it's a little bit like the conversations that are going around with COVID-19. That there's how quickly do you open everything back up, and you're balancing safety, and you're balancing the economic health of the community, and trying to find out what the right number there is. But I think if you were to wait a week making this decision, you would hear from the public in the week, and also you can take a look at the other numbers that we're talking about in terms of the solid waste fees that we have. We have fees that we're not fully recovering for our garbage pickup, and then some of our landfilling charges. We wanted to talk about that, and I think that you might be better informed in a week if we could give you some preliminary numbers for you to digest as we talk about bigger challenges. One thing I'll mention as part of that, the CIP called for a tax increase in the upcoming fiscal year. And city managers love to recommend tax increases. I don't know how many I've recommended in my career, but it's been a number of them. And this year, I'm not comfortable doing that given the economic hardship that our community facing. I don't know that that's something that we can do, but I may be recommending some increases in our fees to fully recover the cost, but we have some significant challenges. This is far and away the biggest budget crisis I've dealt with in my career. I think it's going to be the biggest one that would have happened in my lifetime. Forget my time in public service. And I don't think it would hurt the vendor if you waited a week to make the decision. You can hear from your friends and neighbors and coworkers and the community as to what they think about recycling, and then we can give you a fuller picture of all the expenses involved in this area of our services in public service department, public works department.
Last question I have, and then I'll yield the floor. And this for either for Lane or for Craig. If we, and I'm just asking because I'm trying to make an informed decision. If we didn't recycle, the tonnage that we were now collecting and recycle would then be part of our garbage pickup, most likely.
Yes.
And would it result in a higher cost if we pass that along to our citizens anyway, and we wouldn't have the benefit of recycling these items. Would that be correct, me saying it that way?
It would increase our tonnage going to the landfill, but that rate is a lot lower than it costs.
We would also save in the, we already have garbage truck going by every house in the city. We wouldn't have an increased cost in that. We would have a savings in.
So the only incremental cost would be the tonnage of the landfill. Is that right?
And actually, it would be less if you followed what Mr. Powers is saying. What we're paying to landfill it would be less than the tonnage to recycle.
No, I get that, but the same tonnage, you can figure that out on a unit basis, right?
Yes.
Come next week with that information, and let's try to make a decision on this. This is one that's, I think we've spent maybe more time on it than we need to already. But I think generally we can say that give us understanding of who all is recycling also, Craig. I say if that number is over 50%, that's our answer right there. They're voting by the fact that they're participating. I
was made aware just a second ago by our current contractor that our rate's around 80.
I think that's your answer right there. You don't need to survey anybody. You've got 80% participation rate. That means 80% of the people want it.
That's right.
I think I'm ready to vote. Frank.
Yeah. If we were at 80%, then we know what our community. This is the culture of our community, and this is the expectation.
What does that mean? The 80%?
80% of our households are participating in recycling.
That's just phenomenal.
That is phenomenal.
You know what? The other thing that I think is important to note that a lot of people are looking at Salisbury because of our culture and we've built that name over 20, 30 years that the Center for the Environment has been, even way before they did a building. And the kids in school, it's something they've grown up with. I think if it's 80%, I think we look for somewhere else to cut.
What does that 80% mean?
It means that we have 80% of our public that's recycling. Isn't that what this means?
But everyone's paying for it, so everyone has the option to recycle anyway. If you're paying for it, why wouldn't you do it? If you go to a movie theater and you pay for the popcorn, you don't have to eat it. But if they hand you a bag of popcorn, then you say, oh, wow, look, 80% of the people going to the movie theater, even though 100% are paying for it, but 80% are taking the bag of popcorn. I don't believe that really proves anything.
What I remember is once a month, and it really be that in most cases the vendor would come by twice a month, it's every other week, but at least once a month a can was out. It may not mean they do it every 2 weeks. It might be every fourth week that they would have a can out. I think that's how they calculated that when they looked at it in the past. Mr. Powers may have a different recollection how they figured out the participation percentage.
That sounds correct, Lee.
To put it in another bit of context, what we're talking about is $1 more per month. So what we're talking about is we're talking about an annual increase of $12 per household. That's what we're talking about right now.
What we're really talking about is about $60 a year. That's not in there. That used to be in their tax bill because it used to be part of their taxes. It was extracted about 20 years ago and is treat it as a different fee on their bill.
But that ship's already sailed.
Well, some cities are backing away from it. I mean, I'm not trying to come across as an anti-environmentalist. Shoot, I've written papers on this stuff. But I mean, another question I would ask, for example, is would Waste Management consider doing this for another 90 days to give us an opportunity to, to look into this, to see what the public really wants? I mean, I'm a 50 to 33% user. I don't recycle. I don't have that much. I take my trash out maybe once a month. I take my recycling out maybe every second or third time. So I go into that. I'm a single guy, so I go into that statistic. I mean, if you looked at my household, you wouldn't say, well, gee whiz, only 1/3 of the people recycle. But that would be the statistic at my house, because I don't have enough to recycle every 2 weeks.
So can we wait 90 days? I thought I heard Lane say that we do have, that time is of the essence on this.
Well, would Waste Management continue for 90 days? That's my question.
I can check to see if that's pleasure of the council.
I think a week.
My pleasure. I think we have the information. We don't control much that controls the environment locally as it is. We get environmental regulations pulled back every day to this world that we're all trying to live in. And this is one little place that we can help. We've already got the proof that it's not going to a landfill. The research has been done to find a company who is not doing that, like saying they're not doing it and doing it. Craig's team's already figured that out. I'm kind of with Mr. Miller on saying that I have enough information to vote.
Yeah, I have enough information to vote.
Okay, so in that case, I think, Brian, you were beginning to do a motion. Do you want to do that motion? And let's just see where it goes.
I will beg the council's pleasure. I was trying to follow along with my computer and it crashed, so I don't have the script for the motion. If someone else could read that, I'll be happy to give it a second.
All right. Anyone want to do that?
I'll make a motion. I have it in front of me.
Okay.
Move to award the curbside recycle bid to Republic Services for a 3-year period beginning July 1st, 2020 at an estimated annual cost of $574,158.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any
Karen?
opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Karen, I do have one comment I would like to ask. And Lane, this is maybe not fair, but I'm going to say it. I feel like occasionally we get opportunities to have these kinds of conversations where we've got to make a decision because there's some impending thing. I'd love to do these a little bit further upstream so we have a chance to really dig into them. I know I've missed a couple of council meetings in so far this year, but we talked about it once in our goal setting retreat, and we talked about it tonight. And then we've got this issue of the lead time for them to have their inventory in place and all that sort of stuff. I'd love to do this a little earlier, if that makes sense. If you follow what I'm asking.
I understand. Yes.
If we've got emerging friends that we know are coming, this council loves to debate facts, make sure we're analyzing stuff the right way, and having 2 conversations on this across 90 days when the last one has to happen right now or we're going to miss an opportunity or window. Give us a little bit more lead time. Does that make sense?
It does. And again, I think if you wanted to revisit this in a week, I don't think a week's going to matter in terms of the lead time to order.
I don't know that's, I think we've got enough to make a decision now. I know that this is not the only time we've had one of these kinds of things happen. Just get us a little upstream of where we have been so we're not in a pinch where we have to make a decision. And I don't think this is the case in this case, but other times I felt like we had to make a call on something in a rushed manner. Does that make sense?
Weigh in to say I don't think that's at all the case here because he has gone through the spreadsheet of all that they analyzed, and that's what we asked for. It's pretty clear.
Well, maybe it's not fair on my part because I missed the last one. Maybe this was something that's come up and I just missed it. But
I think that's still a good comment for any future thing that we have as much time as possible. But sounds like that council was pretty unanimous there as far as the vote.
Right.
I was a no.
Oh, you were no. I'm so sorry. I missed that, David. Okay. So,
It was related to the time element, not to the
Not
to
to
the
the
idea concept. I thought we should have.
okay.
I agree with what Brian said. I know we discussed this a month ago, but this is the first time we had actual numbers and had to make a decision that's going to impact our tax. And we have a short wick.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your comment. So we'll move on to 9, City Attorney's Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to take a moment of personal privilege. Thank you for the proclamation on Better Hearing and Speech Month. My wife's a speech pathologist in the school system, and we were going over the agenda last, and I was reading through the proclamation. She was sort of taken aback, and that's really neat. And her and her friends have talked about it. So on behalf of her and all of her speech pathologist friends, thank you for acknowledging that. The only thing that I wanted to just give another update on council, so important, is our PERC issue. So, I explained at the last meeting that the city had received some bad news from PERC. They approved Hydro's plan to make improvements to the water pump station. All the reasons that we've talked about, rejects that plan stringently. It's not a well-engineered plan. It's a flood protection plan that doesn't protect flooding. The road is allowed to flood. The water pump station itself is allowed to flood. It puts people in danger. So as I shared with you last week, the city has filed that request for rehearing. If any of your constituents ask about it or if you get any questions about it, the city's gone ahead and put all of that on our website. So we've got our PowerPoint up there that kind of explains everything. We've got the actual request for rehearing, and we've got an engineer's report along with some other stuff. So if anybody asks about that, point them to our website. As we get additional information on that, we'll get that website up to date. So again, the city's done its part. We've asked PERC to reconsider its decision, and we're waiting on that decision. Just wanted to give that update to council. That's all I had for my.
Okay. Thank you, Graham. Any
I
questions?
have a question.
Okay.
Graham, that newspaper article that I circulated because it's the one that had my mother on it, and by George, there was this headline from FERC in 2007, I think, where FERC Randy was our attorney, and FERC basically had said that Alcoa had to give us almost $17 million to fix problems. Obviously, things have changed. Have we connected that thread to where we are today? I mean, was that reversed, or do we know what happened there?
Lots of things have happened since 2007. I don't know about the direct connection between that agreement or the current situation.
It was the same two issues. Did you see the article?
Yeah, I did. And, in 2017, actually, you bought the operation, Alcoa, and had a different interpretation of all of the agreements. So that may explain it. But yeah, this is a long standing issue with the city.
Yep.
But I do encourage all of you to read that and share it with your constituents. Have them read it. It really does outline the history of the problem with the plan that's been proposed by Cube and now approved by FERC.
Thank you, Graham. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. City Manager's Report.
Yes, Mayor. The first thing is I wanted to confirm, and I think there was a request to tweak the time a little bit, but a week from today, April the 28th, a pre-budget discussion with council. We had originally talked about 2 o'clock, but I think Councilman Sheffield has a possible conflict at 3:30 and want to know if we could move that meeting to 1 p.m. on the 28th.
It works for me. How about everybody else?
I sent in my yes.
Okay. Is it all right with Al?
Yes, I had sent in a yes also.
Okay. Okay. And Brian?
I'm not traveling at the moment, so I think I can make it work.
Okay, very good. So we'll just move it to 1:30,
1 p.m. 1 p.m. on 28th.
1 p.m.
We'll be doing that virtually.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Kelly will send us a another calendar request.
Good meeting request. Yes.
Okay, great.
Can I ask a favor? I'm at home without a printer. Can I get a paper copy of any paper that you would have distributed?
Yes.
And make sure they're clearly labeled so we can make sure we're on the right pages.
And this is a big overview. It's not going to be a lot of pages, but yes, we'll do that. And it's different than the CIP because of the challenges. That's really out the window. But we can give you kind of some of the. We had 2 issues. As I mentioned before, it was going to be a tough issue. A large part of that was that our personnel costs was outpacing our revenue. And some of that had to do with we hadn't fully recovered and the challenges we're facing here. The other part is that I think that maybe we were more aggressive than we should have been in trying to right size the organization from cuts that had been made before. And I now feel terrible. We'll kind of give a little snapshot of where that was headed, but then talk about the different challenges that we have now with a huge hit to our revenue, just some concerns that we have. We'll get that information to you. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and we briefly discussed this at the last council meeting, we have received word from HUD that we will be receiving an additional $168,950 in CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant. And this is specifically earmarked for COVID-19. It's through the federal stimulus CARES Act. Staff has created a web page that addresses frequently asked questions for groups that would like to know if they're eligible to apply. It talks about what is eligible for funding and explains a little bit about how funding proposals, but that's at www.salisburync.gov/CDBG. The first step that we need to do in this process is hold a public hearing, and we send that information to people who currently receive CDBG funds, but other groups are eligible as well, and schedule that public hearing for May the 5th. The act specifically mentions that you can have, or the guidance specifically mentions that you can have virtual public hearings to award this, and they've also shortened comment period to award those funds. And that'll be an item for our May 5th agenda.
Mr. Bailey, the information that was sent out to the organizations, will that same information be on the city's website?
I believe so. Hannah Jacobson, our planner, director of planning, is on this. So she's giving out false information. I'll ask her to speak up or to shoot me a text. Yes, that'll be on I believe that information is on the web page as well.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wonderful. This is so cool. Yeah, we have actually not yet contacted the recipients that are current our public service dollars for CDBG. Website was posted just today, and between now and May 5th, when the public hearing is, we do anticipate working with communication to really get the word out there that the application period is just beginning. I do want to make note that on May 5th, it's just a public hearing to understand kind of the community needs. You all are not expected to make a decision at that meeting.
Thank you.
Is there going to be a recommendation from either the city manager or from Hannah, because so that we don't have to sit there and each individually figure out how to spend $169,000?
Yeah, we discussed this on the website about our procedures or proposed procedures for evaluating applications that we do receive, assuming that we will get requests for more funds than we have available. So we've created a rubric that looks at different, aspects of the application. And we're also anticipating gathering a selection committee to review those applications to form the recommendations.
That's great.
Yeah. How will you pull together the recommendation committee? Where are you going to be pulling from?
That's still something we are discussing, kind of evolving. But if you do have recommendations, I'd be happy to hear them.
Thank you, Hannah. Anything else, Lane?
Call, Mayor.
I've got a question, if I could, Mayor.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
I'm not keeping up a great deal, and maybe the CDBG funds are the funds that I'm thinking of, but I'm thinking that the CARES Act had some provision for local and state governments. Is this the same pot of money, or is that some other expected relief that cities and counties and local municipalities might have access to with some of the legislation that's passed through Congress? Can you give us a brief update on what you might know about that, Lane?
That, and then the mayor may want to speak about what he has been involved with through the League of Municipalities and NLC and some of our efforts there. Unfortunately, the biggest challenge that we face from this, as I've mentioned before, is the loss of sales tax revenue. And the act that was passed only provided direct appropriations to units of government that had a population of 500,000 or more. In North Carolina, that's the city of Charlotte, Wake, Mecklenburg, and Guilford County are the only local governments that got direct appropriation. The rest would come through the state, but even with those larger jurisdictions, the money that's coming through that act isn't to offset lost revenue. It's to cover COVID-related expenses. And we have had some COVID-related expenses, mainly for PPEs. There may be some limited overtime that we have for that. We have our finance department is tracking that. One of our financial analysts has been through training for that. And Chief Parnell is in the lead and coordinating all our PPE purchases and making sure everybody's covered there. But I don't think we have significant COVID-related expenses. Things I've described, maybe some additional cleaning, little things like that. The bigger challenge is the lost revenue. Now, I think the mayor has been involved in groups that are lobbying Congress to help offset that, and that's a much bigger challenge facing, and I'll defer to her.
So, Brian, to update you on the work that the North Carolina League of Municipalities is doing, as well as the U.S. Congress of Mayors and the National League of Cities. All of the mayors have signed on to encourage our congressmen and senators to support a funding stream that will not be regarding the COVID-19 expenses, but more in terms of the actual revenue loss. That has not and probably will not be in the one that's being voted on right now. They're basically focusing on the small business aspect right now.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a fourth one. So we are continuing those efforts. And we've had Zoom meetings with all of our both state and national representatives that touch any part of our community, as well as some extra people that are on appropriation committees that are also North Carolina representatives. So it's been a very comprehensive, almost daily. We've been on Zoom meetings with Senator Tillis, Congressman Hudson, Congressman Budd, Burr's office. Just David Price, who's the Raleigh representative, but he's on the Appropriations Committee. So we just have not been able to, for this one, it does not look promising.
Yeah, no worries. And I thought that was the case, but you guys are more in tune to what's going on than I am. I would just ask that if we have new developments relative to that you'll communicate that with us, and I know you will. I wanted to make sure I was up to speed on what's going on. The other thing I would ask, and I'm not sure, Karen, if this is you or Lane, but relative to budget pressure, have we gotten any relief from the pension requirement that was one of the significant headwinds? Do we have any answer on that yet?
We don't. And with the stock market tanking even more, I don't think that from a state point of view is going to be likely as well, because the hole is deeper. Now there are lots of conversations going on at the state level because there are some rainy day funds, but there's a very divided view about how those funds should be used. So, I think there's a lot of talk going on and a lot of discussions, a lot of good points from both sides. A lot of worries, and when you get into the details of it, it's very complex. But I feel like that in the end, there will be a mechanism whereby cities will get funds that won't be tied just to the COVID-19. The thing is that you have some monies going to or most of the monies now are being funneled through the state to the counties, and they are, directly involved in the response. So for the smaller cities, the counties feel like they don't want their pot of money to be, and this is on a national level. So the county associations are not supportive of the city's request. So it's very complex. But I feel like in the end, I don't have a crystal ball, but I feel like that they realize that the cities are suffering, and we are the economic engine for every county. 80% of the business activity goes on in the city, not in any of the municipalities, not the county, because of just the way that retail and restaurants that are be located in the more dense areas. So, and we are, we have the data to support the need. So it isn't about not having a good story. It's more about, probably my estimation would be, it's more about the timing right now. And they feel like that they're supporting the small businesses that they can all agree on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if that's all, Lane, I'll move on. Mine is not really an announcement, but more of an update. I've had lots of conversations today with different entities that are working with the county, with the Citadel, and I know there's been a lot of angst in our community about what's going on there. I will share with you that I spoke at length with Patricia Cowan, who is our ombudsman for all of the nursing facilities in Rowan County. Particularly, they are working right now directly with the Citadel. There's a lot of sort of incorrect information floating around. I would just say this. I think that the Citadel, both their management, their employees, and the residents need the support of our community. I had a conversation with Blaine Bailey today about how we could help, and he went to Aaron Church because they have the resources and the PPE and all of the protective gear. So they're already doing that there. Novant has said that they will pay for free testing there. So I think the city and the county and the Novant is rallying around this this Citadel, because if we think about it, all of the residents are our citizens, and this is their home. They don't have a choice, and we need to be supportive, even though there may be problems. I think that we should be, positive and giving them all the support we can, because they're obviously having a challenge, and any organization or any city would have a challenge when you have that many people getting sick at one time. So they're continuing to work. The state has been in already for 2 visits. So all the right things are happening. And the county health department is right on top of it. They've done a great job. So that's why I said in the beginning, let's just pray for all of them, because they really need it. And their regular workers are now becoming first responders and the healthcare for them. So that's what I wanted to let everybody know. So moving on, council comment.
I'd just like to do quick things to Craig Powers, Steve Brown. We had a citizen reach out about some litter conversations about a particular part of the city that the citizen was trying to help out and do the right thing. And Craig and Stephen got in touch with him and got him some stuff to keep doing what he was doing. So I just want to thank you guys for doing what you do all the time. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything?
I've got a few things.
Okay.
Somebody's reached out to me about the city lake and said they haven't seen anything going on there. They wondering because a lot of construction. I don't know. Told them I didn't know. Told them I'd just throw it out there. Said it looked, when they were working down there before, it didn't appear that social distancing was a problem, among the construction workers working at the lake. There were typically a few people on tractors, 50, 100, 200 feet apart. So that's, a couple of people have asked about that. I wanted to comment on, there was something out there today that Charlotte has predicted. This is a little scary. Its peak is June 27th, which is 2 months out. And, we're going to be in the same boat with Charlotte, I'm sure. I don't know if that means that we're going to be meeting like this for the next 2 months, but that's what's predicted, to our neighbor. The thing about the Citadel that concerns me the most is whether they're contact tracing, for the people that work there, which I hope they are. I've asked that question, at these morning meetings twice now. And because those people are out in the community, they've had some, and those people are doing God's work, and they're having trouble finding people. In fact, they're having trouble finding people to work there. In fact, because but that's pretty critical, because those folks are milling around in the grocery stores and the such, with us every day. So we have to be careful, and we need them to cooperate with us as much as we want, to cooperate with them. I think it's the Congress, the Senate just passed that the bill this afternoon, right before our meeting got started. It did not include any money for state and local governments, although they said they can probably spend another $500 billion later. Another bill, which hopefully will include state and local government support. And I just want everyone out there, I thank everybody for what they're doing. Like I said last time, every time I turn on the water and it comes and there's hot water, and so many people are doing such wonderful jobs to protect all of us. I just want to say thank you to, everybody here and the 23 people in this meeting that we can't see, and to all the public servants that are out there. They're doing a really fabulous job. I think it's important, and I don't know whether we want to do this together. I know that when I worked on the Hill, numbers counted. So if you get one letter signed by 50 people or 50 letters, the count was 50 letters. I don't know if we should create a letter to write to, our senators and our congressmen about the necessity of aid, because our budget season is coming up. We're statutorily required to have a balanced budget by July the 1st. And I'm wondering if we should have a letter writing campaign coming from all of us on city council.
I think I have a citizen who has written to one of our senators on behalf of that request. So I don't think that it could bother it at all. I mean, we have a grassroots team at the League of Municipalities that involves both citizens and elected officials that serve on our board or committees or whatever. So I think that it would be very helpful for any of you to reach out. If you know someone well, you have a relationship, or if you don't.
I think we all should do it. When I worked on the Hill, we got about 30,000 letters a year from constituents that we had to respond to. Now I understand the average, I was on the Senate side, and there are less senators than there are congressmen, but I understand they get, some of the order of 500,000 to 1 million a year now. So one well-placed letter is not as good as 50. And I think it'd be good for all public officials to write to them and let them know. I mean, I think Lane's mentioned the fact that we probably going to lose somewhere in the order of, in the millions, $4 or $5 million in sales tax revenues possibly this year.
I would have also say thank you to all of you who are on the community leaders call, questions that you ask, comments you make. That really does help.
To my point, Mayor, for 1 second, to my point, I'm wondering if Graham or somebody could, or Lane could put together a, 3/4 page letter. You never want to go beyond a page with talking points, the 4 or 5 talking points we want to make if we want to individually, write to the congressmen and to our senators. I think it's really important, but I'd like to say the same. I'd like the message. I don't want it to be the same letter, but I'd like it to be consistent. And so if y'all could put something together, I for one will do it, or I'll write my own. I've drafted stuff, but I haven't sent it.
That'd be great, Dave. And I think the power of having the key points and everybody being on that page, and that is what we are doing, with the state
Right.
group. So, and you can still put it in your own words, but having those key talking points is very, very important.
Lane, could you do that and get us out something? Could you and Graham get us out something that would say, if you write to your congressman or senator, these are the 3 or 4 points they should know specifically about Salisbury that we want them to be aware of?
Yes, sir. We can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes. Did Brian want to say anything? I just want to make sure.
Oh, Brian, did you have any?
No, I just want to echo, sure if it was Tim or David, but all the folks in our community are checking in on their neighbors, working in essential businesses. Just want to thank them all for what they're doing, because it is important work. So just thank you for that, and I'll yield the floor.
Yeah, and I'm just going to follow up with that, because that is indeed also my echo. I just want to thank all the citizens, for what you are doing in our community to help us combat COVID-19. I think that your behavior has been stellar, and I feel like that we are really working together as a community. And I just want to thank you, thank our staff, and thank our council. On the community call that I think all of us are probably involved in here on the council, one of the things that our Rowan County Health Department Director brought up this morning, and kudos to Nina Oliver. She's doing a great job. So is the county, Aaron Church, and our sheriff. I just thank them all. Both the chiefs, Solis and Brown. But they did talk about the fact that we need to do a better job of our social distancing in the community, because that is so important to us mitigating the COVID-19. So I just want to encourage all of you. Let's please pay attention to that and do the best that we can. And if you have a mask, please wear one. I posted on my Facebook page a way that you can make a very easy mask, if you don't have one. And it's not too late to complete the census. Don't forget about that. We've got to get that census done. So please do make sure that you complete the census for our community. So just thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So under my comments, I will just ditto and want to say a big thank you to council for all you're doing individually, and fielding calls, and making yourselves available to your constituents. It's just really important for our community. And thank you to the staff. I mean, you are just absolutely stellar, and you have done everything in terms of supporting whatever I needed, and I so appreciate that. Thanks to our firemen and our police officers, all of our essential workers that are doing great work for the citizens every single day. And we're just in this together, and stay home, stay safe, and social distance. Very important. And use those masks. I did a little video wearing my homemade mask that was made by one of my church members. I wish I had that time and talent to make them, but appreciative of all the citizens who are stepping up and making them, and just hanging them out online. Go by and pick them up. So no reason not to join our community. So thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you to everyone. Great meeting.